tradition and folklore are deeply ingrained into Romanian culture, in a syncretism dating even before Christianity. All the important transitions in life, birth, marriage and death, are accompanied by a set of rituals that are preserved even by highly educated people. At the festival, traditional dishes are prepared, in keeping with this national belief. When I was a little girl, I would pester my grandfather with the same question every time we wandered the flagstone streets of Athens' Philippopou Hill on a clear evening. I would wait until we had reached the 147 meters peak, with the Parthenon at eye level, to ask, why are the stars shining so brightly from here? A summer break presents the perfect opportunity for many of us to plow through books that have been waiting in the must-read pile. It is also an ideal time to focus on sharing a love for reading with the kids. But if you are competing with screens and children who are reluctant to pick up a book, a summer challenge awaits. ABC Grandstand is celebrating a historic sporting year, combining audio highlights, interviews and expert discussion to revisit 2017's unforgettable moments and timeless memories. In the second half of Grandstand's review of 2017, following Saturday's reflections, we dove into Richmond's drought-breaking AFL Premiership. Tigers star Dustin Martin won every major accolade including the Brownlow and Norm Smith medals. But beginning in the 1990s, foreign aid had begun to slowly improve. Scrutiny by the news media shamed many developed countries into curbing their bad practices. Today, the projects of organizations like the World Bank are meticulously inspected by watchdog groups. Although the system is far from perfect, it is certainly more transparent than it was when foreign aid routinely helped ruthless dictators stay in power. Many of the keepers at the National Zoo rotate through looking after different animals which each have individual requirements. But there is a lot more to being a keeper than pats and cuddles. And some days can be extra challenging. When you're working with that animal every day, it can be quite trying to realize that your animal is not in its best shape. To be honest, Christmas should be in July, not December, which coincides with the end of the Australian school year. The last school term is maybe the most stressful as there are so many extra things happening: exams, final assemblies, graduations from preschool through to final year, schoolies to survive, and all sorts of decisions to make for the upcoming year. Prepare to say goodbye to cracked screens, as research by the Australian National University, ANU, could help lead to the development of shatterproof glass for mobile phones. The research builds on long-standing work in the fields of chemistry, material science, physics and geochemistry about how to make smartphone screens stronger, while also ensuring they were resistant to scratches. I realize that there is so much that we collectively, and I specifically, do not yet understand about the development of the brain. And often, what we do know from the latest neuroscience findings is not yet ready to translate into practical suggestions for parents. The information is sometimes still at a theoretical stage. By 2025, government experts say, America's skies will swarm with 3 times as many planes, and not just the kind of traffic flying today. There will be thousands of tiny jets, seating 6 or fewer, at airliner altitudes, competing for space with remotely operated drones that need help avoiding mid-air collisions, and with commercially operated rockets carrying satellites and tourists into space. Although not an educational reformer, he championed a way of thinking about children that provided the foundation for today's education reform movements. It was a shift comparable to the displacement of stories of noble savages and cannibals by modern anthropology. One might say that Piaget was the first to take children's thinking seriously. Drive down any highway, and you'll see a proliferation of chain restaurants most likely. If you travel long and far enough, you'll see McDonald's golden arches as well as signs for Burger King, Hardee's and Wendy's, the big four of burgers. Despite its name, though, Burger King has fallen short of claiming the burger crown, unable to surpass market leader McDonald's #1 sales status. Always the bridesmaid and never the bride, Burger King remains #2. Worse yet, Burger King has experienced a 6-year 22% decline in customer traffic, with its overall quality rating dropping, while ratings for the other 3 contenders have increased. The decline has been attributed to inconsistent product quality and poor customer service. Although the chain tends to throw advertising dollars at the problem, an understanding of integrated marketing communication theory would suggest that internal management problems, 19 CEOs in 50 years, need to be rectified before a unified, long-term strategy can be put in place. The importance of consistency in brand image and messages, at all levels of communication, has become a basic tenet of IMC theory and practice. In the wake of the housing boom, particularly in cities such as Sydney and Melbourne, the amount of adult children receiving a financial boost from their parents to buy property is on the rise. Figures from Digital Finance Analytics revealed that from October to December 2016 more than half, 54%, of first-time buyers received financial help from their parents. In recent years, research has shown that selectively capturing the largest fish has worrying ecological consequences. In some species the large ones are the healthiest ones, and so the ones most likely to breed successfully. In others they are the oldest, and so the most experienced at eluding predators or securing resources, such as food and breeding sites. This year's Gemini's Meteor shower is predicted to provide a spectacular end to the year for keen sky watchers across Australia. And, if you have a telescope, you could even get a rare glimpse of the asteroid that created the shower, as it makes its closest approach to Earth since it was discovered. The annual shower can be seen from Australia between December the 13th to the 16th. A Japanese space probe has blasted off into space on a mission for samples that scientists hope will help reveal the origins of life. The probe will map the surface of the 900-meter-wide asteroid before touching down, deploying small explosives to blast a crater. It is expected to arrive at the asteroid in 2018 and return with samples in late 2020. When it comes to global warming, even small actions, if millions of people do them, can make a big difference. For example, building designers might incorporate wall planting similar to the one displayed in the photo at right along building facades. Not only do these vertical gardens command attention, they help shade buildings to reduce energy use and CO2 emissions. More than 16,000 Australians are being diagnosed with cancer each year, because of risky behaviour and habits, and at a greater rate than any other country, new research has found. A lot of those cancers that are occurring at high rates in Australia are ones that are directly due to the lifestyle that many of us choose to lead. Professor Whiteman said the biggest cause of preventable cancer was tobacco smoking. Of the 44,000 cancer-related deaths in 2013, poor diet was responsible for those deaths. The cancers responsible for the largest numbers of potentially preventable deaths. Men were also more likely to spend more time in the sun and consume too much food and alcohol, resulting in a higher rate of preventable cancer deaths. Scientists are calling for a national standards body to monitor the safety of nanomaterials, the tiny materials found in everything from the icing on a cake to makeup. Lipstick is a very good example. Typically there is a large number of nanoparticles, because they produce very nice aesthetic finish to your lips. The reason Australia has expensive internet services is that there is a government-owned monopoly, the NBN, over fixed-line consumer broadband services. Once the NBN appears in some area, it has to be used by law. No other company is allowed to provide fixed-line broadband services to those consumers. After a fortnight of attempting to whip up alarm with customers, with claims a bank inquiry would force interest rates higher, the boot is on the other foot. Faced with the prospect of a parliamentary inquiry, it was a desperate attempt to retain some control over the process and, in particular, exactly what will come under the microscope. The social behavior of Aussies is pretty laid back, but there is a hard edge if you start big noting yourself. A love of sport, outdoor activities and booze are pretty common. The main thing to learn is the Aussies' sense of humor. It can sound a bit brutal at times, but that's their sense of humor, so don't take it too seriously. The term supernova was coined in the 1930s by a memorably odd astrophysicist named Fritz Zwicky. Born in Bulgaria and raised in Switzerland, Zwicky came to the California Institute of Technology in the 1920s and there has once distinguished himself by his abrasive personality and erratic talents. He didn't seem to be outstandingly bright, and many of his colleagues considered him little more than an irritating buffoon. Humidity is high during the wet, caused by large amounts of water in the air. During the wet a lot of rain falls and often causes flooding. The dry season lasts about 6 months, usually between May and October. The average temperature is around 20 degrees Celsius. Many people from the southern parts of Australia escape from the winter and travel north for a holiday. In summer the weather is hot and gets hotter. People find ways to keep cool. Many go to the beach to swim in the cool water, or they find a shady place in a garden. For many people, summer is time for holidays. Many kinds of soft fruits such as peaches and strawberries are ready to pick in summer. After summer comes autumn. In some places in the world autumn is called fall. The weather gets cooler. The leaves of some trees turn red, yellow or brown. Then they fall off the trees. The fruit of some trees, such as apples and pears, is ready to be picked, and on farms crops are ready to harvest. After autumn comes winter. The weather is colder now. In some places it is very cold and snow falls on higher ground. People go to the mountains to ski and play in the snow during winter. Many trees have no leaves, some birds fly to warmer parts of the country In spring the weather is getting warmer, but can change a lot. There is usually plenty of rain in spring. There are blossoms on some trees and many flowers grow. Plants that grow from bulbs such as daffodils and tulips flower in spring. Birds make nests and lay eggs and many animals have babies in the spring. The seasons change because the Earth tilts on an angle as it orbits the Sun. This means that during a part of the year, either the northern part or the southern part of the Earth leans more directly towards the Sun. The part closest to the Sun gets more light and heat and has summer. Natural causes of air pollution include smoke and a gas called carbon monoxide that is released by bushfires. Wind erosion blows soil into the air in places where there are few plants to hold the soil together. Pollen is dispersed from plants and into the air. Methane is a gas produced by farm animals as they digest their food. Probably the main human cause of air pollution is the burning of fossil fuels such as coal and petrol. Coal is burned to make electricity at power plants and harmful gases are released as this happens. When they are burned, these fuels cause smog, a mixture of fog and smoke, acid rain, and soot. Outdoors, breathing polluted air can make your eyes and nose burn. It can irritate your throat and make breathing difficult. Pollutants such as tiny airborne particles of dust, soot, and smoke can get deep into a person's lungs. This can cause problems for all people, but especially those with asthma, and young people whose bodies are still growing. At home, avoid burning of wood in fireplaces and in stoves. If you do, make sure that the wood for burning is dry. Make sure that the chimney and flue are working well to take away smoke. While the fire is burning, make sure there is fresh air coming into the room. There are over 3,000 known species of fish that live in the Amazon River. The Amazon rainforest is the largest tropical rainforest in the world. 350 different indigenous, native, peoples live in the forests along the river. They hunt and fish there. More than 30 million people live in cities, towns and villages along the river. The word alphabet comes from alpha and beta, the first two symbols of the Greek alphabet. Before the alphabet that we know today, people drew pictures on cave walls or on animal hides to tell about their lives. Later, systems of symbols representing people, places or things were invented. People carved the symbols onto rocks, stones or shells. Chinese written language is a mixture of single-sound symbols and symbols that represent a word or an idea. The Chinese were the first people to make paper. At first it was made of silk, which was very expensive. But about 2,000 years ago, a Chinese clerk working in the imperial court invented a way to make paper using plant fiber. Homes are many different shapes and sizes. Most people live in houses or apartments. They are made of many different building materials. The most common building materials are wood or brick or concrete. There are many different styles of house. Some houses stand alone, some are joined to each other. The overwhelming majority of providers are legitimate and provide high-quality care. Those who go down the wrong path should be held to account for their actions. Parents should be able to access the information necessary to make informed choices when deciding on a childcare service and have confidence that they are entrusting the care of their children to a compliant and reputable provider. It's possible people are attenuated to things like snakes, spiders, insects, ladders and their associated risks because they are encountered regularly, usually from early ages and in a context where others around are not panicked, hypervigilant, etc. Even the way they are portrayed in movies or news stories is not with the same hysteria or need for action to eliminate them. Thousands of guns are seized in the UK every year. Most are destroyed by police, but a new project in the north of England, Guns to Goods, is trying to put them to good use. The idea is to melt the guns down to make metal tags for t-shirts, and also create artworks to be sold to the public. The climate system is incredibly complex and no weather event can be directly attributed to rising emissions, but everything that is experienced today happens in a world that is about 1 degree warmer than the long-term mean. Scientists say it is the unbroken run of hot days in the high 30s and 40s that causes the significant problems for human health and other life. Using more than 50 interviews, award-winning writer Danny Danziger creates a fascinating mosaic of the people behind New York's magnificent Metropolitan Museum of Art, from the aristocratic, acerbic director of the museum, Philippe de Montebello, to the curators who have a deep knowledge and passionate appreciation of their collections. Many species don't have any ancestors. No one knows exactly when amphibians evolved from fish because the first land animals had well-developed limbs and heads. It's also said that dinosaurs became extinct after a natural cataclysm 65 million years ago. At the same time, species of mammals appeared from nowhere. Since Pluto was excluded as an official planet, it's believed there are 8 planets. The Kuiper belt beyond Pluto consists of icy objects. Scientists discovered thousands of objects in that area that are even bigger than Pluto. They also noticed a large gap in the Kuiper belt. Some unknown planet as big as Earth pulled all the stones from the belt to itself. Most humans are right-handed, and a minority are left-handed. An indeterminate number are ambidextrous. Genes have an influence, but a left-handed gene isn't identified. Social environments are also an influence. When left-handed kids are made to write with their right hand, some of them become right-handed. Getty Images is a photo library that sells the work of photographers and illustrators to businesses, newspapers and broadcasters. It complained that Google's image search made it easy for people to find Getty Images pictures and take them, without the appropriate permission or license. Google's image search feature had a button labeled View Image that would open an individual picture in the web browser. When life is fast and food is necessary, eating quickly, or on the go, seems to make our days easier, or at least more time efficient. But it might be time to hit the brakes and savor every last bite. It's thought the reason slow eating may potentially prevent weight gain is because of how long it takes for people to feel full.